it's Bernadette. I am the creator and channel of the Arc Animal Tarot and Oracle deck, and also the publisher of buildingbeautifulsouls.com and whatismyspiritanimal.com. And today we are going to go over the Minor Arcana. And for this tarot series, my beautiful sister goddess, sister of my soul, is with us, Dayna Winters. She is just an incredible tarot reader. And it's because she has made it her business to study the symbolism of tarot 50 ways to Sunday, backwards and forwards, inside out, and even down Diagon Alley. So Dayna is also an accomplished author. And I will, Dayna, if you will just take a second and introduce yourself and let all of our folks get to know you, that would be super cool, because you're going to be with us for, 100 more videos?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I'm Dayna Winters. I'm the co-author of What's the Real Deal? Breaking Through the Misconceptions, Sacred Objects, Sacred Space, Everyday Tools for the Modern Day Witch, and the Esoteric Dream Book, which is a book basically about not just how to interpret dreams. It's not a dream dictionary. It actually teaches you step by step how to interpret dreams. That's one of my favorites. And my co-authors, I should mention them. One was Patricia Gardner, and the other is, of course, Angela Kaufman. We joined together forces for those 3 books. And when I'm not writing, I'm reading tarot. And I'm delighted to be here and be with my sister, Goddess Witch. We've chosen to name each other this.
Right.
It brightens our day. And I look forward to sharing how to work with the tarot with everyone who's watching.
Yay, cool. Okay, so we're going to dive right in. And in our last video, we went into kind of a deep dive about what the Major Arcana is all about. You know, we talked about some of our experiences. We gave tips for reading with the majors, kind of some things to look out for, things to do, things to maybe consider not doing. So diving right into the Minor Arcana, Dayna, what is the Minor Arcana to you? Because there's the classical definition, and then each reader, Dayna and I encourage intuitive tarot reading. You know, we want you to know all the symbolism. We want you to know the history. We want you to know all the backstories. But you've got to develop a relationship with your cards. And sometimes a card's meaning can maybe turn out to not mean exactly for you in your readings what it means traditionally. And we use the Rider-Waite system, right? That's what we've been using for years and years. And so it may or may not mean exactly what it means in the Rider-Waite system. And that's okay. For some people, they need to stick right to the hardcore meanings that they read online or read in books. And that's okay too, as long as you're giving, authentic, evidential, readings. It doesn't matter. But for us, the way we teach, it's all about, yes, here's the history. Yes, here's what it traditionally means. And based on our experience, could also mean these things. So the Minor Arcana for you, maybe we'll take just a second and, what is the Minor Arcana? And then we'll touch a little bit on the suits that are in each. And then we'll answer some other questions that people always have.
All right, so the Minor Arcana is the lesser secrets, and that does not mean less significant. It simply means that they're more mundane, associated with daily activities, or the smaller steps that lead to the bigger steps that the Major Arcana might mark. So if you've got a rite of passage in your life, these might be the steps, the emotional steps you'll go through, the challenges you might face. It can give you timing. It can let you know the seasons. Astrological signs can indicate people you might be interacting with, or the temperament you might take on. It really depends on the question and how you're kind of looking at it and what you're looking to address. But it's about the smaller details, the everyday, slower step-by-steps. So if you're looking for a big answer for a big question, usually when the Major Arcana comes up, that means it's going to happen immediately or very soon, where the Minor Arcana can point to months, years, the smaller details, and how it's like the mile markers within your journey, so to speak.
Right. So, and just so you know, so there are 22 cards in the Major Arcana, going from 0 to 21. So 0 starting with the Fool to 21. And then that makes
56.
56
minor. Yeah, because
the Minor Arcana. And in the Minor Arcana, they're divided into 4 suits. So the first suit we have Cups, and that the governing element for that is water. And if you think about Cups, it's about receptivity. It has to do with water and the emotions, and what else do Cups mean to you? Because for me in my readings, that's what they mean. They have come to mean just, you get older, you want things more simple, right? So cups to me right now are about, they're about receptivity. They're about fertility, because, that cup is very much like a womb and that, kind of thing. And it's all about diving into the depths that only a triple Scorpio can go to emotionally, right? But for you, Dayna, can you expand on that a little bit about cups?
Cups can be emotion, but they can also be spiritual, because water represents the realm of spirit. You think you're born in an amniotic sac of fluid, a sac of fluid. Excuse me. I can't believe I just said that.
While I was taking a sip of water, I almost spit the water.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So they're born in a sac of fluid, and there's belief that water is a conduit to the spirit realm. For example, sometimes paranormal activity, oftentimes it's very active around water, larger bodies of water. And of course you see water happening in hauntings all the time, but we won't go there. That's another path altogether.
Yeah.
We're talking about being able to connect with spirit. I really think that the cup itself represents not just emotions, but the divine feminine and masculine joined together as a force. And this is like working with that force and how it presents itself in your life. And if you look at yourself as a vessel for that spirit, basically you're the cup, and the divine enters that cup, flies into that cup. It's kind of like you use your body as a physical vessel, as a spirit. So does the divine. There's this thing called, they used to say something along the lines of spirit will ride a vessel like a horse, kind of like they will use your body to enact things. I believe we're all here to experience force spirit. That's how it learns. That's why there's so many of us living so many different lives and different experiences. Because as we grow, we are connected to that divine, and it experiences what we experience, continues to grow, continues to learn. So we are the continuation or extension of that spirit. Those cups represent our connection with that spirit and how it presents every day in our lives.
Oh, wow. See, and this is why Dayna is joining me for the tarot series. So within these, within the Minor Arcana, we have the suit of cups, and then just going alphabetically, we move on to the suit of pentacles. And for me, again, so Pentacles is represented by the element of earth. And for me, that's always come to mean, you reap what you sow. It's about prosperity and abundance, which can mean literal, like money in your bank account, but it can also mean abundance of your spirit, abundance of love, abundance of this, abundance of that. My favorite abundance is double chocolate chunk ice cream. That's what I hope to get when I pull a tarot card. But I have found over the years in teaching tarot classes that new students generally tend to associate pentacles with just hardcore money, and it's not just that. So, what do pentacles mean for you, Dayna?
A pentacle, because it has that 5-pointed star on there, it really represents all of the elements, bringing all the elements together of something, whether it's a relationship, project, task, thoughts, and each of those points represent a part of the whole, which is related to the cardinal directions, the intellect, the will and drive, your dreams and ambitions, stabilizing a situation, of course, Akasha, bringing that whole spirit together, the essence or condition of a situation. But it's not just material things, it's what you value, your ethics, your morals, using them to grow or build upon. And of course, if you've got more than one person in that question, or you're relating it to more than one person, the combination of those values, the essence of the relationship, all feelings involved. So it's really kind of like a culmination kind of thing. I always put pentacles last, thinking that the major like in a hierarchy, they are the most mature archetype, where you reach that pinnacle. You think pinnacle is really kind of close to what pentacle means, reaching that pinnacle, that zenith of where you want to be in any given situation.
That makes really good sense to me. And just to take the 5 a little further, Dayna, I know you're experienced and knowledgeable about numerology, and as much as I hated math all the way through school, became a business person, and had to learn it all over again. That number 5 is super important. And it's all, I would also say that whether you're in the major arcana or you're reading with the minor arcana, or a mix of both, because some people do separate them. Some people will only use the majors just as, that extra guide card at the end of a reading, or people have all got millions of methods, but it's important that when you're reading for someone, that you take into consideration also the number of the card that's pulled up. So for me, the number 5 is significant because my mom is the reason that I'm in this business. She was killed at an early age. It spun me. And here I am 30 years later, having gone into metaphysics. But my mom was born on November 5th, died on January 5th, and got the job she had always wanted. For decades, she had wanted this job. She started it on July 5th. So the number 5 for me comes to represent moms. But throughout history, it's the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, spirit. It's the 5 senses. We have 6 senses and probably more, but if you keep it to the 5, sight, taste, touch, hearing, and smell, the 5 wounds of Christ, the 5 wise men, the 5 foolish virgins, 5 fingers, 5 toes, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So just be sure when you're reading, you pay special attention to whatever number prompts that you're seeing. So, okay, cool. So the next then is, well, Dayna, you bring up a thing. You see Pentacles as the most mature of the suits. So take us 4 suits. What's the infant to sage? What's the order that you order them in, just in terms of maturity and progression, soul progression?
For me personally, I start with wands. Wands being the most, I would say, most difficulty with emotional expression. It's more about action orientation. The communication is there. Yes, wands are about communication, but they communicate on an intellectual level, whereas they kind of block that emotion. So you think youthfulness, egocentricity, a lot of room for emotional growth. Then I go to cups, because cups is navigating emotions, starting to navigate that water, starting to explore emotions and understand them better, express them a little bit more. Then I go to swords, because swords is the double edge of things, reflection. And of course, seeing the shadow side of things, being able to look at the good and the bad and kind of find a nice balance, find what's true for you, and being able to cut away what doesn't serve you and bring into reality what does. And then the final one would be, of course, Pentacles, the most mature, achieving the zenith, the values.
Okay, so going back to wands, its element is fire. And, fire, like you're talking about with the communication and that kind of thing, wands and swords can both be used to protect, to deflect.
Protect.
Yeah, exactly. And so with that element of fire being part of the wands, fire is, that ties us right to our
will and desire.
Oh my God, chakra, not sacral chakra.
Root chakra?
Sacral chakra. Solar plexus is yellow in the sun and a whole 9 yards, but that drive, that passion, that vigor for life, that vigor for anything else. So when I see wands, especially if I see a lot of them, I know people are having a really rough time either communicating, they're not being understood, or they're just coming at it too forcefully for whatever group that they are addressing, or they're having a hard time maybe even protecting themselves in some way, or they're having a hard time getting ignited. They're having a hard time getting that fire going within themselves and being able to, place it appropriately. So,
now I see wands and swords as interchangeable as far as the elements. Yep. So I look at both. Yep. I look at air and fire. Yep. So sometimes it's about manifestation. Think about a wand. You bring what you want into the world. Magic, abracadabra, there it is. So bringing that thought into reality. This is more about creating those sparks and getting that started.
Yep, exactly. And so then going back to swords, and you mentioned the air element, swords is part of the air element. And I like to think of swords also. I love what you said about swords are double-edged. So I'd never heard that before. I just love that swords, the suit of swords is that you're almost to that point of maturity of the Pentacles, because now you're able to see things more globally. You're able to see both sides or many sides of a different story, cut through the rhetoric, cut through the bullshit, and there we go. But I also think of, cups is because it's receptive and it has to do with emotions. It's a very psychic element. But I think of swords as a psychic element too, because when you think of the the air element of that and the messages that come to you on the wind, it reminds me of the Aborigines and how they sing their people to them, or they sing messages to each other from all of it. Is so fascinating to me, so fascinating. And the swords can be, again, like wands, I think maybe a little more so because they've got the sharper blades.
Mhm.
They can be constructive or they can deconstruct, and they can bring order, or they can bring complete and total murder, mayhem, and chaos. And so speaking with the minors, let's say that you do a card pull, and we'll talk about card spreads in a different video, because Dayna and I, we don't stick to like the Celtic cross or the 3-card spread, or we just pull intuitively until we know the message has been downloaded into us, downloaded through the cards and received by the client. But let's say that you pull, I don't know, I probably, when people want me to read tarot, and if I'm compelled, like if I'm getting ready to do a reading, most of my readings are psychic, medium, shamanic in nature, certainly a lot of spirit, totem, power, animal work. But I always pull probably between maybe 5 to 10 cards. I feel like if I have to pull more than 10, it's because either I'm super off that day or the client will not hear what you're saying. And so what do you think of if you get like a lot of the air element, like the greater preponderance of the cards pulled are wands, or their pentacles, or their cups, or their swords? How do you handle that? Like, what comes to you when you see that?
Well, it depends. First of all, the cards are coming up in reverse or if they're upright. If there's a lot of reversals of, say, air element, I would say that they're being subdued in the area of communication, having a lot of complications. It's something they need to overcome to solve the air problem being subdued, taking an elevated perspective, loftier thoughts, lifting your mood kind of thing. If it's a preponderance of fire, it's time to take action, especially if it's upright. If it's in reverse, I would say slow down a little bit. You're going too fast. You might miss something important. Whereas if you look at, we got water here, so you want to keep emotions in balance at all times. But if you got a subdued emotion, you're not expressing yourself enough. If you've got too much of that water, you're drowning in it. You need to pull back and save yourself before you lose control.
Or drowning other people.
Yeah. But with Pentacles, that earth element, if you've got too much of it, you're not standing your ground enough. You're not feeling stable enough. It's time to reach out and try to stabilize things, get things going. The numbers will reveal a lot too. So it may have something to do with foundation. It may have something to do with your mind, your heart. But if you have too much earth, you're stuck in it. You're not moving. You're fixed-minded. You're not letting things in. So you want to make sure you're not going to extremes. You want to try to find a balance in all those areas.
Yep.
I'd look to the numbers to see what they hint at, and the cards imagery.
It's we talked about before in, I don't remember which video it was, but we talked about, well, how do cards happen to show up for the right? Oh, I did. How does tarot work? I did a video called How Tarot Works or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just magical to me. It is truly magical to me that the cards fall in just the right time for just the right person on just the right day. It's just magic. And, I wanted to ask that question because I have a lot of students that say, well, I got a reading and I thought, or I gave a reading and I thought, well, maybe I didn't shuffle my cards well enough because most of the cards I pulled were this suit or that suit or whatever. And I always like to tell the story. One time I was reading for a lady and I never met her before. And she came in and she in her mind, the psychic thing was not real. People are not really psychic, but tarot, now that's real. I was like, okay. So I pulled cards for her and I think I pulled like 10 or 12 cards. And I'll be darned if about 75% of them weren't pentacles. And so I just kept looking at them. And even though they were all upright, which should theoretically say that it's the best possible version of those, there was this feeling in my gut that she just has the hardest time with relationships. That's the psychic part. So I kept staring at these cards and staring at these cards. I said, look, I'm just gonna tell you. And she said, yeah, that's fine. Shoot straight with me. I'm a very forthright person. I'm like, okay. I feel like you have a tremendously hard time with relationships, all relationships, every kind of relationship. They eventually die out. It's very difficult for you to keep a long-term relationship. And I think you have 2 children and you're having really a hard time. And she said, yes, that's true. And I said, here's what's going to solve that for you. I said, you overtend your garden. You overwater it. You over-fertilize it. You are suffocating the very things that you're trying to grow. They're getting root rot. They're getting fungus. They're getting aphids. The color drained out of this woman's face. And I looked at her and I said, too forthright? She said, no, it's just, it's hitting me right in my heart because I own an organic farm. So everything that you're telling me, I can relate to that. And then she went on to tell me how she's been in therapy for years and this and that. And she said, my therapist has been trying to get me to see much the same thing, but when you put it in gardening terms, then I can understand it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think for me, when I teach, and I don't know about you when you teach, Dayna, but I always try to encourage students to go, even if the cards are sitting in front of you, and just by appearance, they would mean one thing. My gut, the psychic part of me, was telling me something else. It related to the cards, it related to the earth, it related to reap what you sow, which is fun. But in a way, and then it was told to me to explain it in a way that I didn't understand. I had to trust, because I've been doing this for so many years. I trust that whatever comes out of my mouth are the words, the phrasing, the scenarios, the metaphors that people need to hear at the time. And so I would encourage, everybody watching this video to do the same thing. Don't be so rooted in what you read in the books, read online about the meaning. Be broader. Like even when you come to, I've worked a lot with people, and it's hilarious because I work in a college town. And so obviously at University of Florida, you can get a communications major. And crazily enough, you'd think all the theater students would come to me. It's all the science kids that come. It's amazing. A lot of the kids that are in communication come, and I will be darned if every time, and they want me to pull cards, swords show up. And by now it's just a joke for me in my own office, where I'm like, let me guess, you're a communications major, or you're a telecommunications major, or whatever. Or they might be an advertising major. And I'll start to either feel my whole throat chakra, because air is the element of your throat chakra, which is why it's important. It's why Dayna and we might seem like we're a little all over the place when we do these videos, but there's actually a method to our madness, because we've made it our business to understand and then research and learn that all of these things are connected. And when you look at them from, so many different areas, color theory and numerology and astrology and zodiac and, chakra, especially chakra systems, you'll be able to say to that poor little scared college student, or that poor little scared person that wants to start their own business or their own vlog or their own, podcast, or even just stepping up and saying to their mom finally, or their husband or somebody at work, stop it, I've had enough. Or, it really, I feel this way when you do this. Could you kindly not, however, or even just go, don't do it again, however you want to communicate that, this is not a lesson in communication, but it is supposed to be a helpful tip about reading, especially in the minors, because again, whereas the majors do what? The majors tell the story like the hero's journey, right?
Exactly.
Okay. The minors tell us what what we're going to encounter along the way, where we're at in our journey, helpful tips, things that we're doing great, questions that you need answered, things that maybe you want to pay a little more attention to so that you can have a better experience and the people around you can have a better experience. So you're never responsible for other people's experiences. It took me 50 years to learn that, just so you know, but you're not. So don't take responsibility. So, okay. So I just want to say this in researching, because I've got a bank of articles about the tarot on buildingbeautifulsouls.com. And in researching it, I was really interested to find, I don't remember the book that I read. Oh, there's so many. But this author related the minors, the suits, to different quote unquote social classes. So pentacles, merchants and business people, cups, clergy and spiritual leaders, swords, political leaders, military people, nobility, and wands, for obvious reasons, workers and farmers. Now, I didn't quite understand how workers and farmers came into wands because its suit is fire. And I know a fair amount about farming because I grew up in the South and everybody around me was a farmer. And, a lot of people burn crops because the ashes do this to the soil and it regenerates. And
solar energies.
Yep, you bring up a good point. Hadn't thought about that. So, some other questions that people have had is, do you always have to mix the major and minor arcana when you do a reading? Or even should you mix them? So, like shuffle them together. What do you think?
I think you can do either or, but I think that if you want the most comprehensive reading possible, kind of like in psychology, when they want to figure something out, they'll mix different theories together. They won't necessarily lean on just one theory, so you get the broadest perspective. If you're looking at just major arcana, you're going to get an overview of the big rites of passage or big events you're going to have, but you may not get the guidance you need to kind of get through any trials or tribulations, challenges you're going to face, how to handle emotions. If you're looking at just the minor arcana, you're looking at day-to-day things, which, is okay. It's no different than doing a single draw and looking at what's coming up for the day, but you may miss the highlights coming up, the big things that, what's coming that I need to prepare for now, months in advance. So I think that using the whole deck gives you the bigger picture, but you can get a pretty adequate picture from either or. I'm very comfortable using the whole deck. I don't like kind of separating that. I think they belong together.
Yeah. I tried it for maybe a few weeks, just working with the minors and then pulling a major as kind of the trump card. Okay, let's seal this deal. And I just wasn't as comfortable doing that either. But some people have very great success with that. And I've seen people even just read with the majors. They'll pull one card and they just use it as a springboard, a diving board, and they just launch into the whole reading just with that one card as like the overarching theme. And no way is right or wrong. It's just what yields the boundaries that's for you and your client, right? So, when it comes to the minors, I've seen students get wildly confused, and I did too at the beginning, when they do, let's say they do a Celtic cross, or let's say, a 3-card spread is pretty easy, past, present, future, right? That's like a paint by numbers kind of thing. But when they're doing like, even just intuitively trying to piece the story together, let's say that you pull 7 cards, and let's say that 2 of them are cups, 2 of them are pentacles, 3 of them are wands, and what does that leave? 2 are swords. How do you weave that story together? How do you weave that? Well, really, we've got a pretty equal distribution of all of the minor suits in the tarot. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? How do you do that? What's some tips?
I would look at the cards, of course, to get an overview first. See what you've got a prevalence of first. And then, of course, after that, I would say, for example, I usually do as above, so below. That's the layout I like the best.
And what is that layout? 5 cards. Describe that.
I put 5 cards on top and 5 cards on the bottom.
There we go.
So you think the universe versus the physical world, the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind, expressed feelings versus unexpressed feelings, you can pretty much apply any opposing force to that and really see how it's playing out and how they interact. Because what I would do is I look at that layout, put 5 cards and another 5 cards below it, and I'll look at the first 5 cards and I'll see what's prevalent there. So if I have 3 wands versus, 2 cups or a cup and a sword, I know it's mostly about communication, like about expression. And then I would look at the bottom layer and do the same thing, look at what's most prevalent. And I'll go back up to the top layer and I'll look to see each card individually in each image. And then you're going to take into account the numerology. If you see repetition of numbers, that's important. Pay attention, because if that number is repeated, it's emphasized. I'll look at the imagery, see if the imagery literally looks like it'll take you through a story. It'll show one action. Doesn't matter how the cards are laid out, what card you get, it will take you through a story. You look at that one card, tell the story of that card. Look at the next card, think about how it relates to that story as it's begun, and you go through the 5 cards in a row. Then you do the same for the following 5 cards on the bottom. Then you can get a lot of information by looking at the cards beneath each other, the first card and the first card, second card and second card, how they're opposing each other, how they're the same, how you get from one point to the other. How is something going to get from the subconscious to the conscious? How is something going to be from hidden expression to expression? And you can see the story going vertically. So you look at it horizontally and vertically. You look at the story and it really just unfolds right in front of you. That's the best way I can explain it, because the story always changes with the cards and it's always different. You may have traditional meanings, traditional understandings, but that story is always something different for someone else, and it unfolds right in front of you. Knowing the common meanings is very helpful, makes the story easier to identify. The more you know about symbols, makes it easier to identify like the running themes, any associations with myth, any associations with real world events, modern day events. The more you expand your mind, the broader your descriptions are going to be from when you pull from those cards. It's like learning a language. The more you know that language, the broader your vocabulary, the broader your understanding of that language. And symbolism is the broadest language there is, because it's like poetry. You're going to interpret it with multi-layers.
Yep. And it's important to know the history of symbols. What some things meant back in the 1800s or 1600s is not what they mean today. And sometimes you will have a reading that the ancient interpretation is the right interpretation, meaning when Dayna and I use the word right, what we really mean is accurate. Because what's the point of a reading if you can't give people evidence or accuracy, right? That whole, angels are around you now and they love you and they're supporting you at this time. That's not a reading. That's not a reading. But saying to someone, like if you pull a temperance card and there's an angel in the temperance card, I've pulled that card before and gone, because in front of me, I get visions, you guys, you'll get to know me. I get literal visions. I had a girl one time, she was there for mediumship, but she wanted me to use the cards. And the temperance card came out and I'm like, look at this card. And intuitively, I'm like, this card has nothing to do with, and then all of the angels divided, like I was having a stroke or something. And there were like all these angels on the card, dozens and dozens of them. And I looked at her and I said, the person you want to hear from, did they happen to collect angels? Yes, my grandmother, she had hundreds of them, and now they're in my, and I mean, and I felt so bad for this kid, but that card came to let me know, and I think it was grandma that, said, stop on that card, pull that card, the relationship that you have with your deck and with all of the characters and archetypes in that deck, they're important. Make no mistake. If you've got a problem with men and you pull king cards or knight cards, and there's some discussion on pages of whether they're really boys or girls or androgynous. Likewise, if you've got mommy issues or you've got women in positions of authority and you pull the queen card or other cards that are in the deck,
the Empress,
you've got to work hard to make sure that you're a clear vessel and that you are not having your own reaction to that archetype or that gender or that position that they hold in the world. You've got to be careful about that. And so the relationship that you structure with the cards is wildly important. You treat them like family because they are. And depending on what you believe in your own spiritual development and your spiritual awakening and opinions, you might believe like Dayna and I do, which is thoughts are things. So let's say that you've got, the King of Pentacles. And let's say that, maybe your dad was really wealthy, but left you and your mom, in poverty, and he took off and married a secretary or whatever. You might not like the King of Pentacles. Okay. But the King of Pentacles has been around for a few hundred years. Few hundred? Has Rider-Waite been around for a few hundred? I have to look up tarot.
Hundreds, it kind of came out. They try to draw it back to Egypt and things like that, but there's no real evidence. I don't want to get into that argument. I might upset somebody who gets associated with the Egyptian symbolism. I use Egyptian symbolism. It's universal.
People are going to have to get all the upset they're going to have to get, because our goal is not to please just some people. It's to give all of the information that we're aware of, which, by the way, we do need to do a tarot history video. We'll get to that on another day. But, when that many people all around the world have put their thought energy, their heart energy into the King of Pentacles is now a real person. He is a real ball of energy that is as alive as you and I are, you watching the video, Dayna and I are right now. And so what do you do with somebody at work that you don't like? What do you do with somebody in your family you are afraid of? What do you do? On and on and on. And so it's important that you come to a sense of balance or peace with any of the archetypes that might rub you the wrong way. And that way you'll be able to get out of the way when your client is depending on you for some of the major decisions in their life, because they do. They really, really do. If they trust you, they take what you say very seriously. I had a girl a year and a half ago, God love her. She has been in her job for a long time. She hated it. And she always had a dream to move to Colorado. I didn't know her, never met her before. I've never even seen this kid. And we do readings by phone. So the first reading I had, I said, all I can see are mountains and snow and cold. And I said, but I keep seeing the state sign, welcome to Colorado. She said, I want to move to Colorado. And I said, and you will? And she goes, nah. She said, I want to, but there's no way. And she had a list 1.5 miles long of why she couldn't move to Colorado and was never going to move to Colorado. I said, okay. I said, you got to have a job, right? Why don't you just start with applying for jobs in Colorado? And I said, be prepared. I would really start going through your things now and even packing things in boxes. And she said, she said, do you know how far-fetched that sounds? And I said, it sounds far-fetched to you. It sounds far-fetched to me because I've seen much larger turns of events happen throughout all the years I've been doing this. That's your message. Do with it what you will. So she thought it was complete bullshit, but she did tentatively apply for jobs. That girl got offered 5 of the 5 jobs that she applied for. And the one job that she took, they needed her at the last possible second. And she spent 3 days without sleep packing up her house. So she calls me and she said, I should have listened. I said, well, listen, I understand. She'd never had a reading before, right? Ever. And she is as happy as a clam in Colorado. And furthermore, where she couldn't get a promotion where she was before, not because she wasn't the best person for the job, but there was just so much nepotism and, stupid stuff. She has jettisoned through the ranks and is in a very nice position of authority now. Not that the authority is the big deal, but she's very good at what she does. She makes great decisions for the company, and they reward her for all of her good work. So I only digress a little bit and go into that because I'd like us to really point that out in all the videos so that, no matter what video, because some people will watch one video and not watch another, but whatever, you're thinking about doing with tarot, it's a spiritual practice. You're entering being a spiritual leader. You're entering the realms of that. It's important that you feel like giving your clients as exact information, as accurate, as evidential as you can is also important, because anybody can read the books and anybody can watch the videos and regurgitate back what the meanings of these cards are. But being able to look at it holistically, that's something that takes effort and a little bit of time. It doesn't have to take you, decades, but, maybe give some effort to it. So, all right. So now we've gone through the Minor Arcana, what it does, what it means, Minor Arcana symbolism. We've gone through all, the suits, starting. Tell me your order again, Dayna. Go over the order for everybody again that you do that.
I go through Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles, with Wands being the most youthful. And I mean, that's what works for me. It's not a hard, fast rule. But Wands being the most youthful emotionally, Pentacles being the most mature, spiritually, emotionally. And you progress through the Cups and the Swords. Yeah. With Cups, getting into emotional exploration, being more expressive, navigating those waters. Swords, the reflection, cutting away what doesn't work for you, being very direct, kind of like warrior for what you want, kind of going after it. And then, of course, the Pentacles would be the symbol of achievement, the zenith, the culmination.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, we hope that this video has been helpful to you in your tarot journey, your own hero's journey. And again, I'm Bernadette King. I am the creator and channel of the Arc Tarot. Dayna is the author of 3 books with Schiffer Publishing, and she always forgets to mention she's an award-winning author. And
I don't even think about that, to be honest with you.
I do.
I forgot to mention my website, Lucky Frog Tarot. Sorry.
Right, exactly.
About that too.
Yep, you'll find the links to both of our sites in the notes below. We would love it if you subscribe to the channel, both Dayna's channel and my channel. And please feel free to email us with any questions you might have. We're always available for readings. And I always tell people this: stay wild. Don't let them tame you. And that's especially true when you're learning to open your third eye and work with tarot. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next video.